solid mindset for success. So when I saw Rod Khleif on the list of speakers, I was really excited. I know you think you're here for real estate, but you're really here to understand how to be successful in life. My friend, I give you Rod, a passionate real estate investor who personally owned and managed over 2,000 properties. He's built over 23 businesses in his 40-year career. This fireside chat is going to be moderated by our very own Samuel Bazua, the founder and CEO of Strategic Vision Conference. Take it away, Samuel and Rod.
Thank you, Celeste. Chris Lopez from Bigger Pockets podcast called him Mentor of Mentors for the multifamily space. And Terrence Doyle, also from Bigger Pockets, referred to him as the man, the myth, and the legend. It's an honor and a pleasure to introduce the irrepressible Rod Khleif, the president and founder of Lifetime Cash Flow Academy. If you're watching, get ready to receive germs of greatness. So to begin, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your business, Rod.
Sure. I'm happy to begin. My name is Rod Khleif, and let me give you a little backstory on me because I think it'll tie into what we're going to be talking about. Oh, there we go. There we go. Got that cool backdrop. Anyway, so I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansje. I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland, and think windmills and wooden shoes. And we immigrated to Denver, Colorado, and where I spent a lot of my years growing up. And we really struggled growing up, actually. And I remember eating expired food. We bought expired food because that's all we could afford. My mom could afford. Drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning. In fact, I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I got a job at Burger King because I lied about my age when I was 14 because I was tall and was able to buy my own clothes and then save money for a car. But, luckily, even though we struggled, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids. So we'd have enough money to eat. And with her babysitting money, she was quite an entrepreneur. She invested in the stock market, but she also invested in real estate. And with her babysitting money, she bought the house across the street from us when I was about 14 for about $30,000. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. And I said, Mom, forget college. I'm going to do real estate. So I got into real estate, and my first year I made about $8,000. This is 1978. To give you some perspective, my second year, maybe about $10,000, but my third year, I made well over $100,000. And so what happened between year two and year three to cause me to 10X my income? Well, what happened was I met someone that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how truly 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical information, the vehicle, as it were, be it real estate, be it entrepreneurship, be it whatever it is, investing in any way, shape, or form. It's primarily mindset. Fast forward to today, like you said in my intro, I've owned a couple thousand houses that I rented long-term. I've owned thousands of apartment units as well. I've actually built 27 businesses. I don't call them failures when they fail. I call them seminars. Several of those 27 businesses were worth tens of millions of dollars. Most were spectacular, flaming seminars. But, it's only a failure if you don't get up or you don't get the lesson. But, in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. Okay. I had lots of real estate and you're thinking, oh, wow, that's great. Well, and of course I did as well. Okay. So it's over $8,000 an hour over the year. And I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, I could barely fit my head through the door. And when that happens, maybe God or the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008. In 2008, I lost $50 million. I lost everything. And, and I thought I was set for life prior to that, but I lost everything. And so one of the things that I'm known for on my podcast and in my teachings is the mindset. First of all, it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but then the mindset it took to get back to the success that I'm blessed to have today. So anyway, long answer to your question, but glad to be here.
Okay. There's a natural vibrancy and energy about you, which is part of the prerequisite of being an effective coach. You've worked with Tony Robbins. If you could share with us, that would be helpful in terms of how do you keep up your energy to be able to train other people and coach them to be effective leaders as well.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you something I'm very proud of. I'll come back to your question, but I want to pre-frame it. So I started my podcast about 4.5 years ago, and I used to tell people I'll never sell you anything, because I never intended to. I wanted to tell my story about losing everything, in 2008 and 9. And then I hit 1 million downloads. I'm like, okay, knucklehead, you probably ought to do something with this. And now I've, I've been in front of thousands and thousands of people at my live events, and I've got, over 1,000 coaching students. But one thing I'm very proud of is, I've actually been teaching about 3.5 years, and my students now own over 46,000 units. I'm very, very proud of that as a coach. Okay. So that ties into coaching. But you asked the question, and why do I think that they've been so successful? I really want to pivot to them. The reason that they've been so successful is because I spend so much time on mindset and psychology. My live events, I've got a boot camp coming up in Orlando, December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And, the first thing we'll do is a goal setting workshop. I call it goal setting on steroids, because how the heck do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You've got to have what Napoleon Hill calls a burning desire. And so, that's the first thing we do, is get very, very clear on what someone wants and why they want it. And then we do a lot of other things at my events as well. Like, we do an identity statement, because there's no greater force in the human psychology than the need to be consistent with how we identify ourselves. We do lots of things. People laugh, they cry. So that's why. So you're asking about how I keep my passion and my energy up. It's because, first of all, I love what I do. Okay. And so if you're listening and, you're thinking, you're considering a vehicle, a strategy for building that success in your life, be it, again, entrepreneurship, starting a business, investing in the stock market, investing in real estate. You've got to love it. And you can learn to love anything. You can associate pleasure with it. But I tell my students, if you don't love, buying apartment buildings yet, associate pleasure with it, equate it to hunting for buried treasure. And you can learn to love something. But if you can't learn to love it, for God's sakes, go do something else. Because you're asking me how I'm able to keep people motivated. It's because I love this. I'm passionate about it. And it comes out, in my energy and my communication. And so, that's a long answer to your question.
That's fine. Thank you. You are a podcaster, a real estate businessman, a coach. How do you manage to do this all? Do you have thousands of employees on payroll, and how does that happen? Sure.
So again, it's funny. I started my podcast 4.5 years ago to tell people my story. If you're going to buy real estate, for God's sakes, buy apartment buildings. Don't buy houses. Don't learn from my mistakes from my seminar. And I used to tell people early on in the podcast, I'll never sell you anything, because I never intended to. I just wanted to add value. And that's a key phrase right there, adding value. And that's what I focused on, was adding value. In fact, I used to take free phone calls from my listeners. Call me. We'll talk for 30 minutes about anything you want. I'm not going to sell you anything. I just want to help. Had hundreds of those calls. And now, my podcast is the largest commercial real estate podcast in the world. I'm blessed to say, with somewhere around 11.5 million downloads, which for a specialized, podcast is pretty good. And so, I think that, I kind of fell into coaching. I never planned to. I started the podcast because I hate asking for money, and I wanted to tell my story, and I thought it'd be a great vehicle for both. And then, like I say, I hit 1 million downloads. I'm like, okay, I better do something with this. So I wrote a book, and I gave away 20,000 copies for free. And then I finally did a course, and now I do live events, and I love it. I just absolutely love it. And how do I stay on top of all that? I've got a pretty small team, but we're very effective. I've got some incredible people on the marketing side. Honestly, any business, according to Peter Gruber, is nothing but innovation and marketing. Marketing is such a key piece. And then we're constantly innovating, trying to come up with new ways to add more value. Again, like I just said, the most successful people in the world are the ones that add the most value. And that's kind of our core, one of our core, mantras at my company, is to just continually innovate and add value. And then, of course, the marketing piece. So I have a very small team, about 12 people is all.
12 people for what you are able to accomplish and do continually on a yearly basis is incredible. Yes.
Thank you.
I agree. You need to always add value, because value is what people love, and value is what brings people to the business. For a variety of reasons, a substantial number of individuals operate below their capacity. You have something on your website which says, be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have all that you want to have, and help people. I believe that's on one of your websites.
Yeah. Okay. I don't recognize that, but I can actually speak to everything you just said for sure. And, it ties into, again, doing what you love. Because if you do what you love, work is play. You never work another day in your life. And so, and in this business, in this multifamily real estate business that I'm in, it's a team sport. And frankly, honestly, any business that if you need to raise money, you have to be able to influence people. Okay. And that starts with competence. You need to understand the subject matter. You need to learn it. If it's multifamily, for God's sakes, come see me. But if, whatever it is, learn the subject matter. But then that competence equates into confidence. Okay. And then once you have that confidence, you have the beginnings of the ability to influence people. But then you couple that with passion because you love it. You're unstoppable. People want to be around you. They want to work with you because they see that, you love what it is that you do. And that's really a key recipe for success. And I kind of got off on that tangent there, so I don't remember the core question you asked me, but I don't know if I answered it or not. Forgive me.
It's okay. You definitely did answer it. In
Okay.
2016, your net worth went up by 17 million, which you mentioned as you slept. And then in 2008, you lost around
everything.
50 million or so.
That's 17 million and a lot more.
Bounce back. What were the steps that you took in bouncing back in order for people to be able to, if you can help explain that, that would be nice, so that people watching can know how to bounce back in life from a setback. A lot of people have setbacks given COVID and what's been happening in the past 18 months. What can we learn from you in terms of getting back on our feet? Yeah, no,
I will tell you, in fact, it's going to be a long answer, but let me tell you initially that it is reassociating with exactly what it is that you want and why you want it, which is why the goals are so important. Okay. And so, like I said, one of the things we do at my live events that's such an important piece is this goal setting workshop. And if you'd humor me, I'd like to take a few minutes and describe it. Now, if you'd like me to, if you're not interested in multifamily real estate, if you DM me on any social channel, and I'm even on TikTok now, they got me on TikTok, any social channel, you DM me and I will send you a link, because I did this on January 2nd with music and a free guide to download, and I'll guide you through this process. It's very, very powerful. But if you come to my boot camp, obviously that's the first thing to do, but I'd like to describe it if that's okay with you. Is it okay if I drill down on it a little bit?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. All right. So what you want to do, and again, how do you get anything if you don't know what it is, right? You need to know what it is that you want with clarity, and this will do that. So sit down an hour, carve out an hour and a half for this. Make sure you're well hydrated, drink lots of water, as I need to get one. Drink myself, make sure you're well hydrated. Don't do it right after a meal, and sit down and write down everything you could ever possibly want in life, all the stuff. Okay. And take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you write it down, you're going to get it. Just the simple act of writing things down triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And that's that subconscious filter you're not even aware of consciously that points you in the direction your brain thinks you're interested in. Greatest example of it is when you first buy a car. You never really noticed them before, and then you see them everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were. That's your reticular activating system. So take the lid off your brain, write down everything you could ever possibly want in life, all the stuff, the houses, the cars, the boats, the jet skis, the planes, the motorcycles, whatever, all that stuff. And again, take the lid off your brain. If you want a jet, a private island, a yacht, there's truly nothing you can't do, be, or have if you want it bad enough and you take action. So that's the start of this. And then also write down all the things you want to do in your lifetime. So it's not just the New Year's resolutions that are forgotten by February. This is everything in your entire lifetime. So what do you want to do in your lifetime? Maybe you want to write a book. Maybe you want to climb every mountain over 14,000 feet. I've got a friend doing that. Maybe you want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. I did that a couple of years ago. I'll never freaking do it again, but I did. It's off the list. So what do you want to do? Write that down. Okay. Then also write down what you want to learn in this lifetime. Again, if you want to learn multifamily, let me mention something real quick. If you're interested in multifamily, I'll give you guys a fantastic deal. If you want to come to Orlando, go to multifamilybootcamp.com and then use the code RODFRIEND and you can come for $197. Okay. So it's kind of a no brainer, and it's not a big sales pitch. I talk about my coaching for 30 minutes. The other 3 days is all training. So again, multifamilybootcamp.com, use the code RODFRIEND. and come spend 3 days with me. If you're interested in multifamily, now, regardless of what it is, write down everything you want to learn in this lifetime. Okay. So do that next. Then lastly, write down everyone you want to help. Okay. We will do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And you want to use this. This is the fuel to get you to take action, guys. This is what gets you to get up early, stay up late, work Saturdays, grind for a few years like most people won't. So you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. And so take the time to do this. So you've written down all the things you want to have, all the things you want to do, all the things you want to learn. Lastly, write down who you want to help. Okay. And so make sure you write that down. Who, we'll do more for others, like I said, than we'll ever do for ourselves. Like I bought my parents a house in Florida when my dad was alive, bought them a car, took them on cruises. Write that stuff down. Who are you going to help? Then once you can't think of another thing, I want you to put a time limit on each goal. It's just a couple more steps. Put a time limit on each goal, how long it's going to take you to achieve it. Put a 1 for 1 year, 3, 5, 10, or even 20. Recognizing that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can do in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, or 20 years. I'll give you an example of this. When I was 18, I did my first goal setting workshop with myself, and I knew I wanted to live on the beach, and there's no beach in Denver. So, I'd visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand and of course the bikinis. I'm a guy. And what's interesting though, is 20 years later, I built this incredible $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. And the reason I bring this up is not to brag, but to tell you that was unthinkable when I was 18, really, if I was consciously, believing that I could do it. But I set my mind to it and I made it happen. That's why I don't want you to limit yourself. Okay, so once you put a time limit on each goal, pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, that goal. And if you've got, you've arrived when you achieve that goal. And if you've got several that are equally exciting, just pick one. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. Put it on another piece of paper. Then pick your top 3 1-year goals. Put those on another piece of paper and leave some room in between them. And here's the last piece. Now, I will tell you, at this point, you've got those 4 goals. You are ahead of 99.99% of the people on the planet that, again, do a New Year's resolution that's forgotten by February. But there's a couple more key pieces. The goals are important, but what's more important is why you must achieve them. So I want you to write a paragraph under each goal, why you have to achieve that goal. And use emotionally charged words like amazing and incredible and beautiful, because words are very, very powerful. So put a description and again, you may want to involve other people. We do more for others than we do for ourselves. So you might say, so I can show my kids what amazing abundance looks like. So I can show my wife what it means to live a life of freedom and success, or whatever, so we can have the freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want. Whatever's going to juice you, write that down. And then once you've got a reason why underneath each goal, I want you to put a little pain in there if you don't achieve it, and make it painful if you don't achieve the goal. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my husband or wife, so I don't have a life of regret, live a life of regret. And I will tell you why this is I think a big deal. There was this nurse in Australia named Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse. So she took care of patients, when they were about to die. And she asked him a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? She wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? It was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. And I can't frankly think of anything worse than that. So anyway, you've got your positive, negative reasons why. Last thing, get pictures of your goals. Okay. Pictures are so powerful. I'll give you a couple of quick examples and then I'll land the plane on this. So let me give you some public examples of declarations and using visualization to get what you want. And again, guys, now some of you analytical ones you're probably going, okay, get on with the real estate stuff, but I'm telling you, this is more important. This is 80 to 90% of it. This is how I had 50 million to lose and how I got back to the success that I'm blessed to have today was by what I'm doing here. So you've got your positive. Let me give you some examples. A great example is Jim Carrey, the actor, the comedian. He wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was flat broke. And he used to go up by the Hollywood sign. He'd visualize cashing it. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you a more recent example. Demi Lovato, the singer, when she was an unknown, like 11 years ago, posted on social media, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. She posted it. She declared it again when she was an unknown. And go watch not this last Super Bowl, the one before. She was saying the national anthem. I'll give you some personal examples for me. Back when I was 18, I got my real estate license. I thought I was going to get rich selling other people's houses. So I got a 4-door car, a bone ugly Ford Granada, bench seat in the front, just a real piece of you know what. Well, I worked with a guy that first got me started learning about mindset and psychology, and he had a couple of Corvettes. He let me drive one. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I got a picture out of a magazine. Again, this is 1978, before the internet. Got a picture out of a magazine. I put it on the visor of my 4-door bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in it, there was a picture of a Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Corvette. I'll give you a couple more examples, but I want to pre-frame this again by saying I'm not bragging. This is just to hopefully inspire you. These things don't even interest me anymore. Okay. This is back when the TV show Magnum PI was out. You know, the actor's name was Tom Selleck. It was a detective show, and he drove this Ferrari 308. It's the first time I'd seen an exotic car on the TV, and I'm like, oh my God, look at that. So I got a picture of that actual car. Put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it. Last example, and then I'll be done with this. I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. Again, I thought that was get the girls, hey, get a Lamborghini. And I had posters growing up of Lamborghinis. And what's interesting is my son actually collected models of exotic cars. He had about 40, Ferraris and Porsches. And he had a Lamborghini, exact same color and style that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. So again, do the goals, do your whys, get pictures, put them around you, put them on the wall, put them on a screensaver, do vision boards, just get them around you. And that's how you manifest this stuff, guys. Sorry, long answer, but hopefully it added value.
The power of visualization is really important, and it helps a lot of people to achieve. If you can conceive it, you can definitely achieve it. The secret to success in business and in life is the power to discovering your genius and living in that genius. Mm-hmm. Could you please expand a little bit more on that?
Sure. Well, I'm going to tell you, it kind of ties into what we've been talking about, because if you are playing to your strengths, your genius, what you are strong with, okay, first of all, you're going to love it. Second of all, you're going to be good at it or become very good at it. Third, you're going to be passionate, like I said, because you love it. So you'll influence people and inspire people because you love it. And that's playing to your genius, because, I forgot who said it. And that was the purpose of life is to find your gift. The meaning of life is to give it away. I may have that reversed, but that's a great statement about that purpose. So anyway. That's all I've got on that.
Pablo Picasso is.
It was Pablo. That's right. That's right. That's right.
That's a wise saying, which you've mentioned before. So you need to be fearless in your pursuit in finding whatever it is you're trying to do in life, and go at it wholeheartedly. But it's not easy for everyone who's struggling. Some people work in 9 to 5.
Right.
I heard you mention this in one of your videos. How do you passionately pursue whatever it is you're trying to go for in life and give it your best if you're working 9 to 5 and it's hard to make ends meet?
Great question. Well, first of all, you got
to a whole lot of people after the pandemic.
Right. First, sorry, I cut you off for a second. Forgive me. First of all, you've got to, like I said, you've got to know what it is you want. You've got to create that burning desire, because so many people have fear, or they have limiting beliefs like I'm not smart enough, I'm not old enough, I'm not young enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not analytical enough. They're stories, but they're limiting beliefs. And there's a reason that the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are just that, BS. And so, it's important that you find that burning desire to push through that stuff, to push through the fear, or maybe even worse yet, sometimes maybe you're comfortable. And, you're just coasting along. You're comfortable, and the comfort zone's a warm place, but nothing freaking grows there, right? So you got to have that burning desire. That's number one. So, I've got numerous students that have retired from, extremely well-paying W-2 jobs that did this on the side with kids, with families, with those jobs, and now they've retired because their income from multifamilies eclipsed their W-2 income. So how do they do it? They're very deliberate. I teach a planning process at my live events that helps people, be very, very clear on what they want, It incorporates the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, where you focus on the 20% that'll get you 80% further. It incorporates that, and incorporates time blocking. And that seems to help a lot. Because I'll tell you, and the reason I studied this and learned it and implemented it is I've had a couple of very large companies at the same time, and you lose track of things, and you've got to focus on what's most important. And also, I'd come home to that $8 million house on the beach, and I'd play with my kids, but I wasn't there mentally. And it's my greatest regret in life to this day. I mean, my kids will tell you I was a great dad, but but I didn't live up to my own expectations. So anyway, I think I answered your question.
Did answer the question. Galileo said the passion is the genesis of genius. And the secret to success in working in your passion. Kindly expand on Galileo's adage. The reason I put this question to you is because it was from one of your talks, and the way you explained it was really interesting. And I'm hoping you can do the same for us today at SBC 2021.
Yeah. Well, I think it's along the same lines of what we've been discussing, and it's just, I think it's great that we're talking about it again, because frankly, repetition is the mother of skill, and you need to hear it. And that is, if you're not freaking loving what you're doing right now, for God's sakes, go do something else. Life is too short. This is not a dress rehearsal, and time. I was just telling my wife, we're in Phoenix right now, and on a little break, but I committed to this, and I wanted to add value to you guys. And so here I am. I'm in a hotel room right now, actually, but this is not a dress rehearsal. I was just telling her that, and life is going by so fast. And my God, if you're toiling away at something you don't absolutely love, what a crime that is, right? And so, I'll tell you, and I will tell you that I didn't get this till later in life. And people ask me, do I love what I'm doing? And I'm going to tell you that, and again, this is not ego. This is just my life right now. I get love. When I tell you I get love 5 to 12 times a day, I'm not exaggerating. I'll get a DM, email, gifts, cards. I've got a wall in my office at home covered with hundreds of thank you cards from people whose lives have been, impacted by my work. And I'm addicted to it. So I absolutely love it. I never thought that I would do what I'm doing now. I'm still buying actively. I bought 2,300 units in the, apartment units in the last 2 years with my students. Just closed on a 300 unit in San Antonio a couple of weeks ago. But again, because I love real estate as well. I mean, I absolutely love real estate, but I think being able to give back and get that love back from people who appreciate, the people don't, here's the thing. People don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And so, for example, in my podcast, I do these clips called Own Your Power. They're motivational clips. And we just started not just started, about a year ago, started adding music to them. So they're really dynamic. People get juiced by them. And so even if you don't like real estate, I hope you'll check out those clips, because I will juice you and get you motivated. And there's hundreds of them there, but at least once a week, if you listen to it, I'll get you pumped. And my podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing. And again, blessed to say it's the largest of its type out there. And but again, it's the largest, again, because I love it and I'm passionate about it, and people feel that. So they get it, and they enjoy listening to it because they hear that energy. But that can apply to anything. Okay. And like Galileo, find your passion, find your purpose, figure out how you can give it away. And all the riches will come. Whatever it is that you want, riches in friendships, in wealth, abundance, all that abundance will come. It's not just financial, it's every way, shape, or form. When you're living in your purpose, loving what you're doing, enjoying waking up and jumping out of bed in the morning, feeling satisfied because you're making a difference. I mean, that's a freaking life. So.
Definitely is a beautiful life. Thank you for the love that you're showing to us today. Thank you for the love that you're showing to us today and spending your time with us. Shifting gears to your day job, can you explain cash on? That's
probably the most important metric that we use when we're buying multifamily assets. Okay, now I buy larger properties. Okay, I mean, of course I started small. In fact, on my podcast, I interview some of the largest multifamily operators on the planet. As I've interviewed the largest on the planet, except maybe Sam Zell. I haven't gotten him, but I've just about anybody else that's huge. And I always ask them a question. If you could tell your 18-year-old self something, what might you do differently? And it's always go bigger, faster. So, that I do that for that very reason. But I started with houses. It took me 2,000 houses to get the memo that I should have gone bigger. But cash on cash return is the amount of money your money out of pocket makes each year. So for example, let's say, I'm just going to use for some easy numbers for simplicity. Okay. Let's say you buy a property for $1 million. Okay. And you get a $900,000 loan. But you're coming out, again, I'm keeping this real simple. There are other caveats like closing costs and CapEx expenditures that you want to raise up front, but I'm going to keep this real simple. So let's just say you're coming out of pocket $100,000 to buy that property. Okay. So $1 million property, $900,000 loan, $100,000 out of pocket. It's called equity. In our world, that's called equity out of pocket. Okay. And what cash on cash return is how much you make on that 100,000. So let's say you make 10,000 the first year on that 100,000. That's a 10% cash on cash return. Okay. And again, that is the biggest metric we use when we're evaluating our deals. And I won't do anything less than a 10% cash on cash return annualized over 5 years. Now, the first year or two, it might be less than that because we're repositioning it, we're fixing it up, we're getting the rents up, because commercial multifamily real estate is valued based on a multiple of the net income. So anything we can do to improve that net income improves the value. So the first couple of years, we buy value add properties where we can go in, fix them up, fix up the interiors, fix up the exteriors, raise the rents, improve the net income to improve the value. So the first couple of years, the cash on cash might be less than 10%, but then it'll go higher than 10% to equalize out to a minimum of 10%. That's our bare minimum in our assets. So that's cash on cash return.
Thank you. Michael Berry, who was portrayed in the Big Shot movie, predicted the last crash accurately.
So accurately.
He's one of my favorites out there because his predictions always come to pass. Your YouTube video called for the next crash. Not called for it, but talked about the next crash.
I got a lot of hate for that too.
Dr. Doom, when do you think that would be, and what should we do in order to ensure that we protect ourselves from the next crash, the impending next crash which may come? And you're not the only one who's been talking about it. Some other people have been talking about it as well. So how do we protect ourselves?
Sure. Well, it's funny, people love negative, and that was my highest watched YouTube video. I don't even know what it's up to now, but I got a lot of hate. Oh, you're so stupid. You don't know what you're talking about, and so on and so forth. I'm like, okay, well, listen, I'm going to tell you that right now feels like 06 to me. Like things are frothing. There's irrational, would call it irrational exuberance. Okay. People that have not been through a downturn. See, here's the thing. The thing to remember about real estate is it goes through cycles, like seasons. It's like the weather. Okay. You're going to go through seasons. And right now, without question, we are in fall. Okay. and winter is coming. Now, is it something to fear? No, it's something to get excited about, frankly, because for me, for example, if I hadn't been hiding underneath a rock in 2009 and 2010, licking my wounds from losing $50 million, I would have capitalized on it. We'd be doing this from the back of my yacht right now. Okay. But, I was in fear and all of that for a while, but there was incredible exponential money made in a downturn. With crisis comes opportunity. And so like right now, I'm heavy in cash. I'm getting in as much cash as I can. I'm also aligning with investors that have a lot of cash, and I'm pre-framing them, telling them, excuse the analogy, but we're getting ready. And when there's blood running in the streets, we're going to pounce. Okay. And so, either having cash or the access to cash is going to be the linchpin when you're, when the market corrects, and it's going to correct. And, don't get me started on this current administration. And I think they're hell bent on making it correct. Okay. They're taking away the 1031 exchange. They're screwing with capital gains. I mean, they're, in my opinion, doing everything they can to cause a crash. So we'll see what happens. But, it's It's inevitable. And again, it's not something to fear. I've been through a couple of these. I'll give you a real funny example. In Denver in the late 80s, I'll give you, this is kind of a real interesting example. So I bought a house for $56,000. It might've been 87, 88, something like that. The market crashed. Oh, no. I bought it for 56 and I sold it for 76. That's right. I flipped it. The market crashed. I bought the same house back for $18,000. Okay. Sold it for 76, bought it for 18. Okay. Few years later, I sold it for 60. Now, what's really painful is that market gentrified, that area gentrified, it's worth about $1 million now. But anyway, that's an example of what'll happen. And, people in California, if they've got a long memory, they know that they've seen this happen there. In Florida, when the market crashed in 2008, let me tell you how come I lost it, lost everything, because people always ask. So, and I'll explain what happened and show you how big a swing it was. I hope it's not that big now. Some people think it's going to be as bad or worse with what's happening, but we'll see. But back in 2008, I had 800 houses and I had several apartment complexes. It was the houses that pulled me down. I had houses 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and everywhere in between. And it was the logistics that really killed me. Okay. So for example, well, let me back up. A couple other things killed me because it's all about cash flow. For example, Florida has no state income tax. So property taxes are higher, which impact cash flow. I had properties in wind and flood zones, which has higher insurance, which impacts cash flow. But what killed me was, again, the logistics of it. So if I had a maintenance issue at one of my apartment complexes, I would send a maintenance guy and everything's the same. The plumbing parts, the electrical, the HVAC, the appliances, the door locks, the windows. So we could stockpile parts and they're in and out in an hour. Well, if I had to send someone to one of my houses that's an hour and a half away, they'd have to go there, see what's wrong. Every house is different. Then they'd have to go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's Hardware where we have an account to buy parts. That could be another hour round trip. And I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever tried to fix something in my house, I end up going back to the hardware store more than once. And it's the same thing with maintenance. And so what took an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. Now, these were C-class houses, and C meaning, it's a little tougher demographic, a lot more maintenance than you'll find in an A asset or a B asset. And it just killed me. And then the coup de grace was, I didn't pay attention to demographics back then. Hey, if you've got a good job or, you've got good credit, you can rent one of my houses. Well, I had all kinds of people in the contracting business, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, which fell off a cliff in 2008 and 9. So they didn't have work. And here's the reason I brought all this up. I was at a 30% loan to value in 2007. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar and I still crashed and burned. And what's crazy is my portfolio, before I lost it all, actually went upside down. It dropped more than 70%. That's how big the swing was, which is the reason I brought all this up. And so again, it's going to happen. Anybody that doesn't think it's going to happen is naive. Okay. When? Who knows? I think it's going to happen by next year. But of course, I thought it was going to happen this year. So my kids often remind me, are you tired of being wrong? But that's okay. It is coming. And to think it's not is naive, but it's not something to fear. It's something to prepare for so you can capitalize on it. Right. And that's what I'm going to do this time. So long answer again. Sorry.
Have less than about 4 minutes left. We're just going to go into the fun lightning round questions.
Okay.
If you didn't have to worry about money, what would you rather be doing?
Oh, I'd be doing what I'm doing right now, buddy. I'm freaking loving what I'm doing right now. Like I said, I get love every day. I mean, I could go on my phone and read messages that I literally get sometimes a dozen a day. So I'm addicted. I mean, who wouldn't be? I mean, I'm getting all this love and affection and inspiration from people whose lives have been impacted. And again, please know that's not ego. That's just why I love what I do.
I definitely know that's not ego. We watched a lot of the videos and we've seen how you've been helping people in the past.
Thank you.
What are your favorite places in the Netherlands, which you moved from?
Good question. Good question. Well, I was born in The Hague. Okay. The capital, Den Haag. But my family's in Groningen. The G is like, yeah, it's hard to pronounce Groningen. But no, I love, it was funny. I was at the airport here at Phoenix getting our bags and some woman had an Amsterdam shirt on. Love Amsterdam. No, I love the tulips. I love the food there. Love the cleanliness of Holland. Couldn't live there because they can live in a shoebox. Their places are so freaking tiny. I couldn't live there, but they're beautiful people, friendly people, and I still have a lot of family there. So love Holland.
Sounds great. Although you left a long time ago, were you a fan of soccer back then? And if you were a fan of soccer, were you a fan of the magical trio back, I believe it was the early 90s or mid 90s? Marco van Basten, Ruud Gullit, and Frank Rijkaard. Were those
unfortunately, no. I was a capitalist. I was focused on success. I focused on real estate and building businesses. And so I didn't really take much time for sports of any, even domestic football here, regular, football in the States, didn't really watch it. If my Broncos were playing in the Super Bowl, I'd watch that, but I was like a weekend warrior only for the Super Bowl. That was it. So unfortunately.
That's fine. We have to make hay while the sun shines, and sometimes focusing on what matters to us in life is what gets us to where we would like to be, because sometimes other things could be distraction. We definitely understand that. And we also appreciate the love you've shown to us today. Thank you very much for your time and coming over to share your experience and expertise with SBC 2021 and our viewers. We really appreciate your time. Where can people find you? What are your socials? We know you gave us your website earlier on. Yeah, so find you on social media.
Yeah, so the easiest thing is Real Estate with Rod. That's my website. Nobody can spell my name. If you go to Real Estate with Rod, it goes to rodkhleif.com. But my podcast is I think you'd really enjoy it, regardless of what your vehicle is for building wealth. I know you'll get value from your power clips. And again, if you want to learn this business at all, I only do one live event a year now moving forward, and it's coming up December 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Orlando. If you go to multifamilybootcamp.com, go to the bottom, you'll see what hundreds of people have said about it, unsolicited. I've never had a complaint with thousands of participants other than maybe the room's too cold or the food wasn't any good or something like that. I mean, it's because again, the passion comes out. I love what I do. People come to my events, they cry, they laugh, because there's a lot of inspirational content as well, but you're going to get all the mechanics of real estate. So multifamilybootcamp.com, and remember the code RODFRIEND, because you can come for half price, RODFRIEND. So it's like, I think $197, which is really kind of a no-brainer. So Real Estate with Rod, the podcast, that's enough. Lifetime cash flow. You'll be able to find me with all that.
We'll definitely find it, and we'll make sure all of this goes on the website for people who want to check it out at a later stage.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been a wonderful pleasure having this discussion with you. And earlier on, you said we should hydrate. I've never done this before, but I will be doing this right now live with you. I will be toasting to you a glass of water.
Salute.
Hydrate to myself.
Salute, my friend. Thank you.
The next segment. So thank you very much, Rod. It's been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
All right. So that was so inspiring. It was so incredible. I just have to give a really big shout out. I mean, I heard a lot of mindset in there. What you believe is what you get. Visioning, cutting out photos and making vision boards. I don't think Rod specifically said vision boards, but really like visualizing our success is such a huge part of it. And then doing something that we love, it makes it seem like we're not working ever. We're just having fun and we're enjoying. And that, to me, is the beauty of this life. So thank you so much, Rod. That was so insightful and impactful and inspiring.